Welcome back. My guest today is Emily O'Brien, and she, in her story, is at the Toronto airport being questioned by immigration, I guess. So tell us what happens.
So we get pulled into secondary, and at this point, I know that the jig is up. Again, I'm not going to go screaming and crying because it would still be my fault. So we get separated, and I can't see him. So they ask me a series of questions, and at this point, I know that I'm not going to lie to a federal agent because that, again, is another crime. And so the last question they asked me, they're like, "Miss O'Brien, we're going to search you. Is there anything you want to declare?" So they're going to physically search me. So I knew, like, didn't matter. I had to tell the truth. And I thought about it, and I guess I thought about it for so long that he had to ask me again. He said, "Miss O'Brien, is there anything that you want to declare?" And then I said, "Yes."
Wow.
Yeah. I looked him right in the eye and I said, "Yes."
So now you're done. You go to court, I guess, and so on, and you get sentenced to what, 4 years, is it?
Yeah. So I was arrested, and again, I didn't know anything about the justice system. I didn't know how it worked. So it was all very new. I couldn't just go home. My parents had to bail me out, and luckily they did because they loved me, but they're just so glad that I was okay. They're extremely hurt, of course, and, I had a lot of work to do to repair those relationships, but, I did it for them. And so I was on house arrest for 2.5 years, and I had a lot of time to be mad, angry, and I just decided I was done being mad. And I was ready to commit to my comeback, take responsibility, take accountability, and see where this whole journey was going to bring me. And yeah, it started with a 4-year federal prison sentence.
So now you're in jail, and what's triggering you to how you're going to change your life?
Well, I knew this couldn't have just happened to me. And when I was arrested, I was mortified. I was humiliated, and people were saying, "Oh, like, you're criminal," like this. And I really had to look back on all my accomplishments and to know that I wasn't a bad person. And I just felt so misunderstood. And I didn't think it was fair. And I knew that I had things to contribute to the world because I knew that I had. But I also knew that I had to, I'm a firm believer in justice, for sure. So pleading guilty was the first step to that. And I met a lot of people in prison who were just like me, just wanted a second chance. Food was something that brought everyone together in prison. I was in a medium security facility, and so we made all of our own food. Popcorn was a popular prison snack. Talked about jobs, employment, and finding work was going to be difficult with a record. And I was like, I'm going to start a popcorn company and employ us and prove to everyone that we are worthy of redemption and second chances because we're human.
And the name at first was?
Cons and Kernels.
Cons and Kernels, but you didn't go with that. It's Comeback Snacks. Now tell us why the change.
So I started with Cons and Kernels because I did a survey. I thought of different names inside prison, and I went around and asked people what their favorite name was, and Cons and Kernels was the popular vote. But as we came into society and was selling product to people, I was like, Cons and Kernels is actually a limiting title. We aren't just people in prison making popcorn. We are humans making comebacks, and that's why we changed to Comeback Snacks.
I'm at the Scotiabank Arena, and I see your popcorn there in the concession stands. You've come a long way from prison to having it in grocery stores, arenas, and so on. Tell us how you did it.
Oh, the little convict that could, Steve. That's me.
It's you, it's right.
Honestly, I just started with popcorn kernels and stamps inside prison with a mission to change myself and a mission to change the stigma surrounding the formerly incarcerated. In prison, I looked up recipes. People would send me information. I lived in a halfway house, and then I worked in a commercial kitchen. And then eventually we found a co-packer in 2020. And that's when COVID happened. But I was able to actually scale during COVID because I was an essential business. And when I did deliveries, because I wanted to help people that were really struggling during COVID, I was like, hey, I've actually been in prison, and I know what it feels like to feel confined and restricted, and the rules aren't fair, but never limit yourself. And so that's how it grew from word of mouth, and now we're all across the country.
So Scotiabank Arena was word of mouth too, right?
Yeah.
Someone that knows someone and so on.
Yeah.
And obviously, because the product is amazing.
Yeah.
You had an addiction earlier you talked about. My addiction is to your popcorn. I'll tell you that right now. Every time I go to the arena and the grocery store now. So obviously there's struggles though as you grow a company and you get more sales, which is oxygen to a company. You have to find ways to produce more, package more, ship more, and all that. And I'm sure that was a challenge as well.
Absolutely. Finding a co-packer was hard. So we started in a commercial kitchen, but we realized we needed a manufacturing partner to help us really scale to extend our shelf life. So when I was making it in the commercial kitchen, it only had a month shelf life. So we had to find a partner that had processes in place to create a shelf-stable product, because that's when the bigger retailers will take you on. And I honestly just looked them up on the internet. I walked in, I was like, "Hi, I'm Emily."
There
And
we
of course,
go. I'm going to
they
stop
took
you
us
there for
on.
a
Yeah.
sec because we got
Yeah.
to take one last break. We'll be back with more Canadian Innovators. Stay with us.